Welcome everybody to a very special episode of the PokeRamble Podcast. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the Battle Frontier Brain himself, Amit. Hello, buddy.
Hey, it's an exciting episode.
Yeah, what are we doing?
We are going to be talking all about Pokemon Masters, and I guess doing a little bit of a beginner's guide introduction for people who have just started the game.
Excellent. And what do you have in store for us then? What's the breakdown? Where are we going with
So
this?
I wanted to give kind of a comprehensive overview of the game. So we'll do a quick introduction, then we'll talk about sync pairs. We'll talk about how to basically raise the potential of your sync pairs, how to build good teams. We'll talk about egg Pokemon. We'll then talk a bit about battle mechanics, events, what to prioritize, how to prioritize your grind and your stamina, and then we'll do a closeout with some of the best sync pairs or recommended sync pairs as well. So lots of good information to come. I'm so excited to get this out of my head finally.
I'm so excited that I didn't have to do anything. Like literally, you got the screenshots, you got the images. I'm here with my phone, just ready, just to be like, okay, I'll do this, do that, and the other. I'm just glad I'm not doing anything today. Like I'm tired, dude.
And we said we'll upload this to YouTube after we finish.
Yes.
But for anyone who's joining us live on Twitch, hello, firstly, and feel free to post questions. I may not get to them right away, but I'll make sure that I cover them in the dialogue as we go.
Okay. So do you wanna start?
Yeah. So I guess firstly, welcome to the artificial island of Pasio, and welcome to Pokemon Masters EX, which is a mobile game that's centered around 3 versus 3 battles. So unlike Pokemon Black and White, where 3-on-3 was a triple battle or a rotation battle, this battle is almost like in real time. So there's a move gauge that charges. Your attacks cost some move gauge, and you can only use moves when you've got the energy to do so. But I think one of the things we should start with is saying why we love this game so much. I mean, Kamal, so I'll throw to you first. What is it that makes this game so special for you?
The interactions between the characters we see throughout the Pokemon franchise. I love that.
Yeah, I think this game does the storytelling really well, and just those little moments where someone from a different generation meets a Pokemon trainer you really like, and you see an interaction you'd never get, and we've never had in the anime or the games. That's a cool moment.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, the recent event, Blue and Leon, meet each other for the first time, and that's a pretty cool moment.
That was a very cool moment.
Generation 1 champion meets a Generation 8 champion. That's just awesome.
And they throw down as well, which is all the more interesting. So aside from a great story and the character interactions, really at the heart of this game is about you forming teams of sync pairs, and we're going to spend the first sort of section of this looking at sync pairs and teams. Okay. So I guess without further ado, let's roll on to the section about sync pairs.
Cool.
So we're going to do the majority of this up on screen in real time. So Kamel's going to pull up his phone, and we're going to sort of jump around and talk about things as we go.
There we are.
Brilliant. So welcome to the Pokemon Center on Pasio. You can see it's all festively decorated. We are currently in the middle of our 1.5-year celebration for the game. So if you are starting, now's a great time to get in because there's lots of free gems, lots of giveaways for the 1.5-year anniversary. It's a good time to start Pokemon Masters if you're ever thinking about it. And I guess the first thing that we're going to do is probably look at sync pairs. So Kamal, when you're ready, do you want to pull up a sync pair of your choosing?
I'll look in front of us. You've got Gloria and Zacian, but let's go to the actual screens, shall we?
Yeah. So we'll start in the sync pair menu, and we'll take a look at some of the sync pairs.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a team, and I'll just click into a sync pair.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
So here we are. We've got 3 sync pairs. I'm going to click on red.
Yeah, so
there we go.
Red is, I guess in Pokemon Masters, probably one of the most well-known trainers. And what you can see on screen is basically Red and Charizard as a sync pair. So not only can you see all the moves that Charizard has access to, what's really cool about Pokemon Masters is that trainers get moves too. So at the bottom of the screen, as Kamel's clicking around on them, you can see that Charizard's got Heat Wave and Blast Burn, but actually Red can use Dire Hit Plus to raise Charizard's critical hit rate, and My Destiny, which is a unique move that allows Charizard's special attack and speed to rise and has some other effects as well. So that's one of the key things about Pokemon Masters is it really is a true blend of Pokemon and trainer, and every trainer has normally one Pokemon that they are represented with in the game and that they battle alongside. So it's a really cool way to see that relationship between trainer and Pokemon, and a lot of the trainer moves are themed around the trainer and their kind of personalities and attitudes. Now, the interesting thing about Pokemon Masters is that every Pokemon only actually has one type, and that type is normally denoted by the type of its sync move. So Charizard is typically a flying and fire type, but in Pokemon Masters only carries the fire type, and you can see its sync move on screen, Living Legend Blast Burn, which is a fire type move, and makes Charizard a fire type pair. To go alongside that, every sync pair only has one weakness. Again, it's shown on screen for you when you look at the sync pair, so you can see Charizard is weak to rock type moves, and it means you don't have to worry about the endless type matchups of all the different things that Pokemon are weak to. Every Pokemon has one weakness and is one type. The other thing you can see next to the weakness are roles. So every trainer has one of four roles, which is strike, so physical strike, special strike, tech, and support. And I'm going to talk not strictly about those four roles, but what Kamel's going to pull up for me on screen now is more about kind of what the. Oh, sorry, actually, not quite yet. Give me a second. We'll just talk about the different types of moves before we move on. So you can see on the screen you've got the red moves, which are Charizard's attacking type moves, so Heat Wave, Blast Burn, and Flare Blitz, which basically are the damage dealing moves. And regular Charizard, rather than Mega Charizard, has Dire Hit Plus. And you can see the little trainer icon behind my Destiny. That shows that it's the trainer move. It's Red's move, essentially. So, as well as having attacking moves and trainer moves, there are also quick moves. So, things like Accelerock or Aqua Jet, moves that in the game normally get priority. And they basically don't take any stamina to use. And it means that you can use them almost as freely as you want to, but you're limited in the number of times that you can use them. And Kamel, I can see, is just pulling up Mega Metagross's Bullet Punch, which you can see on screen can be used 3 times. There's a 3 out of 3 underneath Bullet Punch. And there's finally status moves. So things like Hypnosis, Stun Spore, all of the classic status moves are implemented in the game some way or another, and all have pretty similar effects to what you'd expect in the main games. So that's kind of a very quick whistle-stop tour of moves, move types, and the other thing just to point out that all trainers have are passives. So passives are basically like hidden abilities that all trainers have, and you can see here that Charizard has 3 of them: Propulsion 1, Piercing Gauge, and Move Gauge Refresh 4. It's worth clicking on these from time to time, just having a read of what they do. There's far too many for me to go through in this session, but just be aware that they're there. And often passives are the way in which some ordinary sync pairs with middling stats become really, really strong. And one of the great things about Charizard is Piercing Gaze, which means that its moves never miss, which is a really handy asset. So take a bit of time, get to know the sync pairs that you have, look at their passive skills. And we often talk on the PokeRamble podcast about kind of some of the key sync pairs and what they're really good at. So check out a couple of those older episodes if you're interested in finding out about more specific sync pairs. But for the time being, the only other thing I'm going to point out is the third tab there called Lucky Skills. So Lucky Skills are basically an extra passive ability that you get to set for your Pokemon. And they're randomly assigned, and you have to use cookies to get Lucky Skills, and we'll show that a little bit later on. But those lucky skills basically give you just another bit of a boost to either do a bit more damage, heal a little bit faster, avoid certain statuses, and they're just there to kind of make your sync pair that little bit more unique to you. So that's the trainer in a nutshell. And if you go back to moves, Kamel, we talked about sync moves. You can see that flashing icon in the middle. That's Charizard and Reg's signature sync move. So the two of them combining their power together. And that move is always the sync pair's most damaging move if it's a attacking Pokemon. So there are actually 4 different types of sync move. Some that do damage, some that do some small damage but are boosted under special conditions. So you can see that Leaf gets the ability increased or the power increased if the Pokemon is poisoned that it's targeting. You also get support sync moves, so Pokemon that actually don't do damage with their sync move, but actually just raise the stats of their team. Some good examples of that are Eevee and Xerneas. And then finally, that you've seen on all of the pairs on screen, Mega sync moves. So not only does the Pokemon use an attacking move when it uses its sync move, it also Mega evolves into the Mega form of that Pokemon. And classically, the Kanto trio there with Mega Charizard, Mega Venusaur, Mega Blastoise all have Mega sync moves. So it's worth, as you're going through your sync pairs, checking out what types they are, checking out what their sync moves do, and trying to start thinking about how to pull them together. We'll talk a bit more about team building in a minute. The next thing to look at on the sort of list of things about a trainer, and there are quite a few of them at this stage, is potential and move level. So every trainer has a base potential, which is basically the star rating that you can see on screen. So you can see that some of the characters have got 5 stars, some of them have got 3 stars, and there are 4 stars as well. And that basically is the base potential of that character. And you can raise their potential from 3 stars all the way up to now 6 stars, which is called the 6th star is called the EX star. But you can get your characters up to 4 stars and 5 stars, meaning that every Pokemon in theory can be relatively strong. You also have a sync level or a move level with your sync pair. And you can see on screen in the bottom left corner those numbers. So on screen now, 5 out of 5 for Zinnia and Rayquaza. You might see 1 out of 5, 3 out of 5. And what that really details is how strong the bond is between your trainer and your Pokemon. And as you get multiple copies of the same pair, you increase their move level, which not only increases the power of the moves that they have, but also grants them access to a couple of other things like expanded sync grids that we'll talk about in a minute. So really what you're trying to do is have a pool of sync pairs that cover a good number of types that are both damaging and supporting, as well as being there to debilitate opponents. And that's the key way to kind of raise their power is through the potential and a move level. The next thing you can do with some Pokemon is you can actually evolve them. So what's really cool is there are some Pokemon in the game that come in their basic form, and you get the opportunity to evolve them. And I think Kamal has prepared a little demonstration for Dawn and Turtwig, who's one of the sync pairs that Kamal got recently, who can evolve from Turtwig into Grottle. Kamal, do you want to take over while you do that demonstration? Is he talking on mute?
Yeah, so each sync pair has got their own story behind them. So you can see there's plenty of stories here, but some stories will lead to their Pokemon being evolved. So not all Pokemon can evolve, but some can. For example, here we've got Dawn. So I'll click on Dawn. And you can see there's a day with Dawn, which is sort of like her story. And then you've got Turtwig's evolution, which will be the evolution battle you need to go through to evolve Turtwig. So just for this purpose, we're gonna put this up on screen, and I'm gonna show it whilst Amit talks over it.
Yes.
So these do require items, but we'll go to the item area later.
Yeah, so we'll talk about how you get items to evolve your Pokemon later, but one of the key things that's really good about evolving your Pokemon is some of the moves that they have get stronger, particularly when they reach their final evolution, and also their sync move. So as Kamal does this battle, which is between Dawn and Hao, 2 pairs that probably never would have met before, it basically gives you an opportunity to strengthen your sync pairs just beyond the base potential and move level. Not every trainer has a Pokemon that can evolve. Most trainers' Pokemon come fully evolved, but for some characters like Dawn, like May, who has Mudkip, some of their Pokemon can be evolved and they get so much stronger for it.
Indeed. I mean, yeah, like the sync moves for a final evolution Pokemon is different from a sync move from a lower level stage Pokemon, even if it's just the name, you know?
Yeah.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
What's very cool about evolution battles is one-on-one battles. And they also have a really cool camera angle, which is a very specific point. When you've played a lot of Pokemon Masters, it's kind of cool to get different camera angles and things like that. Pretty cinematic battles, those ones. But that's it. That's how you evolve Pokemon. You literally have to win a battle. You can overlevel your Pokemon for the battle, but you do have to use the Pokemon you want to evolve. And then what we'll get at the end of this story is Turtwig going through evolution, which is a pretty cool moment. Just while that's happening, I got a question in the chat, which is a really good one about Red. Rahul asks, here we go, here's Turtwig's evolution. Let's just enjoy this moment. Congratulations, Kamal.
Thank you, dude.
Nice. There's Grottle. So, yeah, and then Grottle can evolve again into Torterra, which is the final evolution. And it shows you a little tag on Dawn's screen that Grottle can evolve into Torterra, which is a nice reminder for you. But you'll see as you go to the sync pair stories which Pokemon can evolve and which can't. Just before we move on to sync grids, I'll just answer Rahul's question, which I think is a bit off topic. So, is Red supposed to be Ash? So technically, Red is Ash's equivalent in the video games and the manga and everything other than the anime.
Red is his own character, basically.
So Red is sort of the protagonist of the original game Pokemon Red, and he is, in theory, the canon main character of those games. So you don't play as Ash in the video games; you play as Red.
Yeah.
So in theory, Ash could be introduced into this game as a sync pair, and we have had some sync pairs that are based on the anime at this stage. So Jesse and James are a good example of sync pairs whose stories and whose characters are very much based on their anime appearances. So we are all hoping one day we will get Ash, whether it's Ash and Pikachu, Ash and Greninja, Ash and Char. There's lots of good combinations, but a lot of people are excited for that in the future. Cool. So with evolution done, the next thing you can do to power up your Pokemon is sync grids. So I'll just give Kamal a second to pull up a sync grid. Cool. So this is a sync grid, and it's basically a lot of tiles on the screen, and each of those tiles strengthen your Pokemon in a different way. So all of the blue tiles boost their stats, the green ones boost the damage of their moves, and the red and yellow ones have various effects that maybe allow them to use their moves more frequently, that basically allow the Pokemon to um, refresh its moves, refresh potions, all that kind of stuff. And there, maybe prevent damage from Sandstorm. And every Pokemon has got a unique set of tiles that's very specific to them. So it's worth spending a bit of time looking at the sync grid for your characters, and perhaps maybe Googling or asking friends for advice on how to build effective grids for that sync pair. There are lots of guides out there for good sync grids, so I won't go into any in detail. But it's worth remembering. Look at Xerneas in the Pokemon Center. It's worth remembering that the sync grid is there to really take your pairs from good to outstanding. And there are lots of pairs in the game that really benefit from good investment in their sync grid. Now, one of the things that's interesting about sync grids, as you pull up a perfect example with Signasuit Elisa, is that some of the tiles will be locked for you when you first get the sync pair. So you can see there at the bottom of the screen that Signasuit Elisa has some of those tiles locked until the move level reaches 3 out of 5. And it's quite a common thing in the game to try and aim for at least a 3 out of 5 in move level so that you can take full advantage of the sync grid, because often the best abilities are locked behind that 3 out of 5 move level. So it is a bit of an incentive for you to get a character multiple times, maybe pull on a banner more than once. But some characters are outstanding even with just 1 out of 5 with one copy. So it really is worth looking at some guides online and seeing whether it's worth having a character at 1-5, 2-5, 3-5, and then the best grid that supports them. And Signasuit Elisa is a really good example of a character who actually shines very, very well at 1 out of 5 as a sync level. So there's lots of different guides out there for sync grids. Don't be afraid to Google. Don't be afraid to ask. Some of them are complicated. Some of them are very specific. But what they do is give your Pokemon a really sort of specific niche that allows them to be a bulkier tank or a stronger attacker or a more frequent healer. And all of those things are really worth taking a good look at as you get to know your sync pairs. We talked a bit about lucky skills. I'm going to get Kamal to pull up the lucky skill screen in a moment. Maybe a sync pair you've not lucky skilled. Perfect. So Chris, as you can see on screen, has the ability to learn a new lucky skill and hasn't before. In order to teach your sync pair's lucky skills, you do have to get scrolls, which we'll talk about how you earn those later, but they're pretty frequent and easy to come by. And once you've unlocked the ability for a trainer to learn a lucky skill, you very simply select one of the cookies on screen and they can learn a lucky skill. It's as easy as that. Now, there are 3 tiers of cookie: bronze, silver, and gold. Typically, the best lucky skills are in the gold cookies. So if Kamal just pulls up that screen again with all the cookies, I'll just talk those through. So there's three levels. Gold are normally the best ones. That's why we get the fewest of them. And then there's actually 4 different colors. So this first one on screen, a crunchy cookie, is where all of the attacking skills are. So if you want your Pokemon to do more damage or be more accurate with a status move, crunchy lucky cookies are what you want to do. Look on places like Cerebi for a list of all the lucky skills and what they do. But typically what people are looking for with those cookies is either Critical Strike 2, which does more damage when you land a critical hit, or Power Flux 3, which does more damage when your move gauge is full. Because they're the biggest damage dealing ones. The other one that's quite lucrative from that lucky cookie is Troublemaker 1, which makes status moves more accurate. So if you have a move like Hypnosis, which has a low accuracy, it's a way of guaranteeing that it will hit every time. The next one, creamy cookies, are the blue cookies, and they are the defensive option. So they give your sync pairs they basically prevent your sync pairs from losing stats. So Dauntless, for example, prevents special attack reduction. Or the one that most people want is Vigilance, which prevents your Pokemon from being hit by critical hits. So a really good one to put on your tanks. So sync pairs like Skylar and Swanna, Rosa and Serperior really benefit from Vigilance as a lucky skill because it means they won't get hit by critical hits ever. Which is a really handy thing in Pokemon Masters because there are ways to guarantee critical hits, and the enemy AI are not afraid to use those tactics from time to time. The other cookie is a Crispy Lucky Cookie. These are ones that we don't use quite so much, just because they're not quite as versatile as the other two. But Crispy Lucky Cookies basically give you immunity to certain status conditions, so burning, paralysis, trapped from like fire spin, things like that. Crispy Lucky Cookies can give you immunity. Sometimes worth using if you're in a pinch and you really need to avoid a specific status condition, but otherwise not so useful. And then finally, the Chewy Lucky Cookie, only available as a gold cookie, basically reduces damage from a specific Pokemon type. So it can reduce damage from Psychic type, Fire type, etc. Not a bad one to use on your sync pair early on, and maybe negate its weakness by giving it a Chewy Lucky Cookie. But over time, if it's something you're using as a tank, you'll probably end up replacing it with Vigilance because you won't always use that Pokemon against things it's weak against.
I think a good example is early on in the Villa, where Slacking is typically the final boss of Villa and hits super hard. People would use Chewy Cookies to mitigate the normal damage from that Pokemon.
And don't be afraid early on to burn through, particularly the last two, the pink and the sort of purpley cookie, the crispy and the chewy, because you will get a surplus of them and you won't find them useful later in the game. So do take advantage of those early on. And then for the other two lucky cookies, the blue and the pink, take a look at Sarah B. There'll be lots of recommendations for what to give your sync pairs. You can always ask us as well. When we do our Champions Stadium streams every Friday evening, we're always happy to take questions. But as you can see, they're one of the best tanks in the game. Xerneas has got Vigilance there, and it means it will never get hit by a critical hit, which is super useful. Cool. The final thing you can do to your sync pair is something called theme skills. Theme skills are basically little stat boosts that you can give your sync pairs that only activate when they're with sync pairs of similar types. So you can look at Steven here, you can see that Steven has a steel type theme skill, which boosts its attack and special attack by 30, and then a variety of other theme skills which give it smaller boosts, which I think is +9 attack and special attack for each of the green ones. And you can basically, when Steven is on a team with, for example, someone from Hoenn, the Hoenn skill will activate and both sync pairs will get the boost associated with that. Now, typically, theme skill orbs, which you need to use to level up your theme skills, are quite hard to come by and do require a bit of a grind. So we do recommend that this is sort of the cherry on top when it comes to developing your sync pairs. And you probably want to spend more time earlier on getting enough sync orbs to fill out your sync grids, because sync grids are super useful and turn mediocre pairs into outstanding pairs. And occasionally you may need some evolution items to evolve some of your Pokemon. Rosa and Snivy is a great example of someone to try and evolve early on, and the story rewards you with evolution items at some point. And you can see Kamel there upgrading his theme skills on Giovanni and Mewtwo. Cool. So that is the sort of rundown of everything you can do to a sync pair.
Do you want to quickly show them the area where they can get sync orbs and stuff?
Yeah, so a lot of the items that you need to collect sync orbs, to get theme skills is in the training area, which was Kamel just showed you how to get to. And in here are all the different things that you'll need in order to level up your sync pairs and unlock things. So there's the evolution material area at the bottom, which is a nice low level. The hardest one there is level 45, so it should be an easy one for you to clear. The sync orb area is there as well, which can be done up to 10 times a day. So there is a limit of 900 sync orbs for the hardest level.
And just to clarify, it's not 10 each. You get 10 out of all of these. So you want to pick one and do 10 of the one. You don't want to do 10 of normal, 10 of hard, 10 of very hard, because it caps out at 10 total, not 30. So yeah.
That's a very good point. And we do recommend as quickly as you can to try and get to the stage where you can clear the very hard level of the sync orb area. Because sync orbs are so useful, you probably want to spend at least 100 stamina a day just getting all of the sync orbs that you can from the sync orb area, because that's one of the few things in the game that is very, very limited, but very, very useful. So well worth spending 100 stamina every day on this in the sync orb area at the highest difficulty that you can do.
Cool.
Cool. So that's the rundown of sync pairs. So we talked about moves, we talked about sync moves, we talked about lucky skills, evolution, sync grids, theme skills. There's a whole lot of things going on. But as you look at the menu for sync pairs and powering up sync pairs, all of those options are laid out for you. And most of the menus are very intuitive. Always have if you press and hold on something in the game, typically it will pull up an explanation of it. So if you're looking at, for example, a skill or a lucky skill, and you press and hold on it, a description will come up telling you what it does or how it works. So that's a good thing to have in the back of your mind as well. Cool. So with our sync pairs all built,
Do you
it's
want to
probably time to
talk about leveling them up and stuff? Is that coming later?
We'll talk about leveling up quickly. So leveling up, as you can see, there's a level up screen at the top, which basically is the simple way to level up your characters. They get experience points from battles as well. So the more you battle, the more they get. But there are 4 grades of level up items, and you can spend them to level up your sync pairs as much as you want to. One of the things that we do recommend is there are, because of the stamina limitation, meaning you can only do so many battles per day, it's well worth trying to level up your sync pairs by using them on battles that are really easy, rather than trying to farm the level up area for items. Just because, one, you get a lot of them free from events, and 2, there's probably more efficient uses of your stamina in getting unlock items or sync orb items, or even just playing the events, than just purely trying to level up your characters. Early on, it's not a bad idea to just try and get 3 sync pairs to level 100 as quickly as you can, because that will allow you to start clearing content much faster. But don't feel like it's something you need to spend all your time doing. Even in the very early stages, 3 or 4 sync pairs who are very, very strong will go a long way for you. And then finally, level cap. So Kamal is showing you that on screen now. Every sync pair starts only being able to reach level 100, but with special items, you can actually push their level at the moment all the way up to level 130. And the developers have confirmed that in time that will go all the way up to level 150. The grind can be quite slow, particularly between 125 and 130. But trying to get your sync pairs to level 125 is probably a good benchmark to try and get to, especially with 3 or 4 sync pairs early on, because being at that level sets you in good stead for clearing a lot of the more difficult stages in the game. And also, the grind between 125 and 130 is a difficult one, and you don't get a lot of benefit from it. So aim for 125 as quickly as you can. You'll need to use the cap unlock area and cap unlock area 2. But if you look at the sync pairs and look at what they need to level up, you can then mirror that to the training area. And at the bottom, you can see the different options between all the different unlock caps that you might need. Level 100, level 110, level 120, level 125. What's really interesting is you actually get more items the harder the battle that you're doing. So the level 120 cap unlock area actually drops the same items that the 110 and the 100 does, and drops more of them. It also gives you the unique item for level 120, but as soon as you can get onto the more difficult ones, it's worth doing that because the more difficult ones reward you more rewards. So don't feel like you need to do the level 100 when you're trying to unlock level 100. As soon as you can start doing the battles at level 110, that's the battles you should be doing. Cool. So now that we've got sync pairs unlocked, trained, and ready to go, the next thing probably is to talk about team building. So I've prepared a very quick graphic just to help talk about this, because I think this is probably the crux of the game. And if you can kind of get your head around this concept, you're probably in really good stead for what's to come. So I'm just going to give Kamal a second to pop it up on screen.
There we go.
Cool. So there's basically 4 key things that you ever want to do with your team in Pokemon Masters. The first and most obvious thing is you want to attack. You want to do as much damage as quickly as you can to enemy Pokemon to try and knock them out. If you can, you want to try and use a weakness type because that's really, really helpful, but just strong damage across the board as quickly as you can. The next thing that you might want to do is buff your own characters or debuff the enemy characters. And that means maybe increasing the attack stat, critical stat, speed stat to do more damage, buffing your defense, special defense, or evasiveness to try and make your team take less damage, and then debuffing the opponent's Pokemon so they deal less damage and they take more damage. And there are lots of different sync pairs who fulfill those roles really, really well. The final two things are tanking. So you need a Pokemon that can basically just take the hits from the enemy Pokemon, ideally take as many hits as possible. And finally, you want to be able to heal your team, because the longer they last in the battle, the more time you have to do damage. And what you want to be thinking about when you're putting teams together is trying to do all 4 of those things in 3 sync pairs. Now, some sync pairs do more than one of these things. Some sync pairs do all of these things. But what's really important to start building strong teams is to focus on building a team that fulfills all 4 of those roles really well. So if you have a team that doesn't have enough firepower, can't do enough damage, you won't win the battle. If you can't buff your team up enough so they can take hits, they won't last long enough, etc., etc. So what we normally recommend when team building is to really focus on the balance. And you'll notice as you start looking at sync pairs, and Kamal, if you can maybe flick back to your phone now and pull up Hilda. Hilda's a really good example of a pair who is built as an attacker. So Hilda does damage and is an attacking sync pair. You'll see it's a physical strike Pokemon there. But Hilda also has access to potion. So Hilda can actually heal either Ember or another Pokemon in your team. So that's how you start to fill multiple roles with a single Pokemon. Hilda also has a move called Try and Stop Us, which actually buffs Ember's attack stat based on its speed. So again, it's a way that you can get buffing in, and I've now got buffing, healing, and attacking all on one Pokemon. So have a look at your teams, and typically what you're trying to do is get the attacker, whoever's doing damage, to maximum critical hit rate and maximum either attack or special attack, depending on what move it's using. You want your tank to be at maximum defense and special defense. Ideally, you want your whole team to be at maximum defense and special defense. And then you, as a bonus, can debuff the enemy's team if you have capacity to do that. Maybe slow down their speed so they take fewer moves, lower their defenses so they take more damage. But that's the core of what we try to achieve. And we'll talk in a few moments about some simple team compositions that are really good. But if you're following that rule of always trying to fulfill those 4 things, attack as hard as you can, buff your striker to maximum attack and crit, or special attack and crit, and your tank to defense and special defense. Your tank obviously needs to be able to take moves really well, and the healer needs to be able to heal definitely the tank, but ideally the whole team if it can. And there are some pairs that do all of those things, some pairs that do some of those things. Often the Pokemon that does one thing will do it really, really well. And Pokemon that do 3 or 4 of those things typically are not as good as someone who is outright designed for that role. Kamel's got Skylar up on screen. Skylar is a free pair that you get from the story, I think around chapter 5. And Skylar is a fantastic example of a tank. You can see its defense and special defense there of 240 and a massive HP stat of 779. So it plays the support role because it acts as a really good tank. And Take Flight actually boosts its own defense and speed. So it's a good Pokemon for buffing. It also has access to Potion, which means it can heal anyone on your team as well. So Skylar is one of the most popular sync pairs in the game. Even at endgame, it's still a very, very strong sync pair, arguably one of the best support pairs that we have, because it can do so many things. It can tank, it can heal, and it can buff. So it's a really good pair to invest in early on. And as you're building your team around a striker, if it's missing the ability to heal itself, Skylar can provide that with Potion. If it can't boost its own speed, Skylar can boost it with Take Flight. And that's the kind of mentality you want to get into. So normally when you're starting a stage, you will start by saying what's the opponent weak to. And weakness is huge in this game. Damage is normally doubled for weakness. And the team that Kamel's got up on screen is a really good example of how you might build a team around Hau and Raichu. So Hau and Raichu are a special electric type pair. They deal lots of damage with discharge and have a sync move that's very, very strong. And the other 2 pairs that Kamel has picked to go alongside Raichu are purely there to complement Raichu doing as much damage as possible. So you can see Volkner and Luxray here with Electric Terrain, which is a move that boosts any electric type moves that are done. So already adding to Raichu's firepower. Thunderfang is there to try and stall the opponent. Signasuit Elisa is there with X Special Attack All to give Raichu the special attack that it can't boost itself.
It can, but you don't want to be using it itself. Yeah,
slowly. So Raichu really can get its own speed up, but needs a bit of support to get its special attack to maximum. And Breathtaking, which is a really unique move for Elisa and Rotom, which accelerates the rate at which your sync move counts down. So normally in battles, it takes 9 moves before you can use a sync move, but Breathtaking skips 2 or 3 of those for you, so you can use a sync move sooner. And because sync moves do so much damage, you want to try and use them as often as possible. One of the other benefits of using sync moves is that for every sync move you use, all your damage output is increased by 50%. So if you've used 2 sync moves, your damage output is doubled, 4 sync moves, it's quadrupled, etc. So using sync moves quickly and using them often is a really important strategy because it increases your damage output very, very quickly. One of the really cool things about EX characters, and Kamal has got a couple of them, here's Rosa on screen now. EX Rosa, as well as having the sync move, which does damage, you can see Shoot for the Stars, Leaf Storm does 262 base power. It gets an additional effect for being an EX character. So support pairs actually double the amount of buff that you get from using the sync move. So rather than it increasing the power by 50% every sync move, it increases it by 100 for the first time you use a sync move. So EX pairs are really, really strong because they give the sync move so much more potential. One of the nice things about Striker's EX moves is that rather than it being a single target sync move, it actually hits all 3 enemy Pokemon. Again, a really useful thing for taking out the Pokemon on the sides nice and quickly. If you have a really strong sync move, it can do a lot of damage very quickly. And tech pairs have a sync move where if they are 6-star EX, their damage output for the sync move is multiplied by 1.5, which is good, but typically not as strong as the EXing for strikers and support characters. And what we typically recommend is that you try and balance the number of characters you're EXing between strikers and supports, because they are typically the characters that have the best sync moves at 6-star EX.
Characters with like multipliers like inertia for sync moves maybe benefit more from the 1.5 than other characters that don't have something like inertia on their grid. So you want to pick and choose if you're gonna 6-star EX a tech pair, which ones you want to 6-star EX.
And we'll talk a little bit later about some of the best picks of sync pairs, particularly early on, and which ones are worth kind of EXing and investing in versus which ones aren't. One final thing before we move away from team building, there are other tactics that are worth thinking about when building a team. So there are weather teams that run around rain, hail, sandstorm, or the sun. And there are Pokemon with Sunny Day, Rain Dance, etc. that can set those weathers up for you. They can be really effective ways to build a team. Similarly, with terrain, we currently have Psychic Terrain and Electric Terrain as options. Again, you can build teams around those kinds of things. So you can see here a team built around Rapidash's Sunny Day. It's an all-fire type team, so that Sunny Day is boosting the output of the fire damage as much as possible. Another tactic that some people like to use is sleep. And one of the best sleep users in the game is Serena and Delphox, who, rather than just using Hypnosis on a single pair, have a passive called Go Viral 9, which actually puts all 3 enemy Pokemon to sleep. So some people are able to very effectively time when they use Hypnosis and put Pokemon to sleep, and almost keep them perpetually asleep so they can't use moves. It's a difficult one to pull off. There's lots of guides on Reddit about how to sleep chain, but if you have access to Serena, even at 1-5, Serena can sometimes be a very effective pair to help you clear more difficult stages. And finally, we talked about Signasuit Elisa giving you acceleration on syncing. There are some sync pairs that just want to use their sync move as often as possible to do colossal damage. A great example of that is Barry and Piplup, or when you get to evolve them, Barry and Empoleon, who do an incredible amount of damage with their sync move. So you want to look for ways to try and accelerate the rate at which you can use sync moves as much as possible. Cool. That's a whistle-stop tour through team building. As I say, the core is to try and remember those 4 roles and use them as often as you can in all of the teams that you build. And I think with that, you can't really go too far wrong. I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking now about egg Pokemon before we move on to battling, because that's the final way you can build a team. So egg Pokemon are very, very unique in that you hatch them from eggs that you can receive either from training areas or from special egg events that we normally get once every kind of 2 months. You can get shiny eggs, which are super exciting and are pride and place in our collections when we get them. But you can see on screen now, Kamal's looking at his box of eggs, and he's incubating 2 eggs at the moment. And sometimes during events, they give you an extra incubator so you can hatch even more eggs. What's cool is that anything you hatch then ends up in the daycare. And you can see here a list of all the Pokemon that Kamal has got available to him to form sync pairs with. if you tap any of these Pokemon, it'll ask you if you want to form a sync pair with them. Now, you can only form a sync pair with one Pokemon at a time, so you can only form a sync pair with like one Aerodactyl, one Bellsprout, one Geodude, but you can form as many sync pairs with different Pokemon as you want to. So this is actually a really good way early in the game to get a wide variety of roles. You can see Kamel is now forming a sync pair with, I think, Geodude. Now, egg Pokemon are not, even with maximum investment, egg Pokemon are not nearly as strong as the sync pairs that you can get from the gacha. So sync pairs that are proper trainers and Pokemon. And the reason for that primarily is that their stats are much lower, and also that they require huge investment to get their stats up to a good level. And even then, they still pale in comparison compared to some of the other Pokemon in the game. But early on in the game, when you're first starting out, these Pokemon are very, very cheap to level up. And so if you're looking for a very quick Pokemon at a level 100 to help you clear a stage you're struggling with, egg Pokemon are worth spending a little bit on to do that. We particularly recommend a couple of sync pairs, and I think Kamel's got a little screenshot he can pull up to show the ones that we recommend in a second. And really what we're using the egg Pokemon for is to fill in the holes that we have within our teams. So on the screen right now is three that we recommend very highly. The first is Tauros, support Tauros in particular, who can actually maximize all of your Pokemon speed in a battle through X Speed All and through Stand Together. So it gets your Pokemon to +6 speed very, very quickly, which is really important in Pokemon Masters because you want to be able to use moves as quickly as you can. So early on in the game, when you maybe don't have access to Skylar, or you're struggling with a stage and maybe Skylar isn't available to you, or is a weak type to the type you're facing, Tauros might come in handy to bridge that gap, particularly support Tauros. Kangaskhan is there because support Kangaskhan has Potion, which is just a useful way to replenish HP. And actually, Strike Kangaskhan can hit very hard with Mega Kick. It has Piercing Gaze as well, which is useful, which means it never misses. Again, it's a very cheap Pokemon you can level up in a pinch and might just plug a gap for you early on. Finally, Tech Execute, which is a really useful Pokemon with Hypnosis. It also has the passive Troublemaker 1, which means that Hypnosis will never miss, and is a really good way to put Pokemon to sleep before you maybe have access to Serena. And as I said before, sleep can be a good way to try and get around some of the harder stages. So that's basically the egg Pokemon that we recommend, and you can form sync pairs with any egg Pokemon that you want. And what's really nice is you can chop and change them and you won't lose them. So if you have a Geodude that you're a sync pair with and you want to form a sync pair with a different one, the Geodude will just go back into your daycare and you can take the other Geodude out and then you can use them to your heart's content. So it's quite nice. It's quite an efficient way to get more Pokemon available to use, maybe cover some types that you don't have, like poison types or rock types. And it's not a bad way to use them. What we will say is that egg Pokemon do sort of, as I say, plateau off pretty early on in the game, but they're a good way to just get you through the early grind if you need it. One of the things you can do with egg Pokemon, as you can see on screen, there's something called Affinity. And Affinity is a way to basically increase the stats of your egg Pokemon, and it's unique to egg Pokemon only. So if you look at the ones on screen, you can feed them little treats. This is a 1-star treat that basically promotes the stat of that Pokemon to be a little bit stronger. And there's 3 tiers of the tarts that you can feed Pokemon: bronze, silver, and gold. And by giving them more and more of those items, they will get a little bit stronger. Again, these are just exclusive to egg Pokemon, so feel free to use them if you really need them. There's not a huge value in saving them unless you really want to save it for a shiny Pokemon that you really want, and you want to get that shiny Pokemon to have really good stats. We do get these sort of tarts and other items like that quite often, so don't feel like you can't use them on your egg pairs as you get them. Cool. So that's egg Pokemon, and as I said, we occasionally get egg events. There's one coming up, I think, later this month for normal and fairy types. So we'll get the likes of Porygon, Clefairy, and they're good opportunities to form sync pairs with, again, other very niche Pokemon that can be handy in a pinch, but really are just there to bulk out your team early on when you're short of other sync pairs. Cool. I think we're through egg Pokemon. So I'm going to just literally crack my neck for a second. And then we're going to move on to talking about what the main event, which is battling. So Kamal, if you can pull up the next screenshot.
There we go.
Thank you. So this is really what the battle screen will look like for you early on in the game. You can see at the very bottom of the screen the blue bar, which is the attack gauge or the move gauge, and then your 3 sync pairs appearing on screen, and at the bottom all the moves that you can use. Now, what's really important to start getting to grips with about this screen is just how much is going on. So you can see that there are 3 enemy Pokemon. You can see the type they're weak to. But also over time, as you start to inflict status buffs or debuffs, those will also appear under the Pokemon's health bar. So you can keep track of, for example, how many boosts in defense it has or special defense, etc. And it's a good way to make sure that you're landing all the debuffs that you think you are. In order to change the Pokemon that you're targeting, simply tap on the Pokemon you want to target. And at the bottom of the screen, in order to pick the Pokemon you're using a move with, just tap the different boxes to pick the Pokemon. The tutorial for battling is quite good, so I'm not going to go over too many of the basics. You can replay that tutorial if you need to, so feel free to take advantage of that. But what I will now get into
Would you
is
like
really
to see a battle live?
Oh, go on then, Kamal. Why don't you treat people to a battle that you've probably rigged in your favour?
I just thought whilst you can probably explain what I'm doing on screen, for example.
So what Kamal's doing right now is a battle, I think, between him and Koga of the Elite Four, the Johto Elite Four, with a Sun-based team. So Torchic, Charizard, and Rapidash that we saw earlier, who can set up Sunny Day. And really what Kamal's trying to do here is, so he starts the battle by trying to put all his buffs in. So you can see him using trainer moves and Sunny Day to set himself up to do as much damage as possible. Once he's got those buffs in place, then Charizard is using attacking moves. Inferno is super effective because it's a fire type move. So he's targeting down the Ariad. Oh, he's actually targeting Beedrill on the right hand side with the fire type move that will do significant damage. Boom, that's a one-hit KO. Good move, Charizard. So basically what Kamal is doing is with his support pairs, adding more and more buffs to his team to help them tank. You can see him clicking the trainer moves, and then at the same time using attacking moves with Charizard, and Charizard is doing most of the damage to the enemy. In the middle of the screen, you can see Kamal's sync countdown. So you can see the number 1 that as soon as Kamal uses one more move, will start flashing, telling you that you're ready to use a sync move. And I'm sure that Kamal is going to sync with Charizard. So you get to watch the really cool animation of a sync move, and then it will deal, I think, a horrendous amount of damage.
You can see all the buffs at the bottom for your Pokemon as well.
Yeah, so what's nice is there's little numbers as well telling you how many buffs there are. So it gives you the 2 or 5 that you've buffed your Pokemon to.
So orange is good, blue is bad.
Yeah, so blue is negative stats and orange is positive stats. And
that's a battle.
Wow. Charizard does not hold back.
He does not, indeed.
That's the basics of battling, and just getting used to, at the beginning of every battle, buffing your team as quickly as you can so that they can deal more damage or take less damage as quickly as you can, and then work on dealing damage or debuffing the enemy. Typically, the priority at the start of the battle is to protect your team or get your team ready to attack as quickly as you can and overwhelm the opponent before they can overwhelm you. And that's kind of what Kamal was doing there by setting up the sun and giving his team buffs. He's getting himself to do as much damage as possible as quickly as he can.
Mm-hmm.
You saw during that battle as well, Kamal set up the sun, and field effects are shown at the top of the screen. Weather and terrain are on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side are other things like damage shields, critical hit shields, and things like that the AI might throw at you to try and limit the amount of damage you do. And before you enter a stage, there's always a little bit of guidance on what the stage is kind of built around, and it gives you some recommended tips on maybe trying to use burn or maybe trying to use the sun. And you can build teams around those ideas. So I think if Kamal pulls up a battle and just hits the plus icon, I'll just give you a second to catch me up. So the little plus icon where it says area details actually shows you not only the rewards for the battle, but underneath that, really useful, what to watch out for in the battle. So what the enemy team are going to try and do to you, and what the game recommends you should try and focus on. So here it's saying you should focus on, when you're attacking Jinx, physical moves, and trying to reduce Jinx's special attack. So there's lots of tips in the game to try and help you build good teams. And actually, when you build your team, there are filters that you can use to pick those effects. So you can filter your Pokemon in the team builder to find Pokemon that burn or find Pokemon that lower special attack. which is a really handy thing that they've added to help you build good teams. Cool. So that's really the gist of battling at its core. The only thing kind of finally to show you is how to queue moves. So in Pokemon Masters, you normally want to queue 3 moves before the enemy gets to make a move. And the reason for that is that your sync countdown starts at 9, and you can use a maximum of 3 moves before the enemy gets a move in. By using 3 moves, letting the enemy move, 3 moves, enemy moves, 3 moves, you reach your sync move as quickly as possible. As we talked about earlier, you want to be syncing as fast as you can. So you should always try and queue 3 moves, whether it's a trainer move or a Pokemon's move, at a time before the enemy gets a chance to move. And while you're practicing that, play the game on the slowest speed. Kamala's got a lot of apps open. Holy moly!
Yep.
Play the game on the slowest speed, and try and basically focus on when you're kind of building around that team, making sure that you've got things that are going to work for you. I've lost my train of thought. Oh, so by queuing 3 moves, what you're doing is getting to the sync as quickly as you can, and then the enemy's taking as few turns as possible every time you're syncing. So practice on the slowest speed, get used to tapping, I think what is eventually 5 times. So the middle sync pair, tap to get to the right, use a move on the right, tap to the left, use a move on the left. That's 5 taps you're basically making in order to get 3 moves queued as quickly as you can. The other thing that's really helpful in the settings, and Kamel is showing it on screen now, is this thing called action order. What that does is it puts on the right-hand side of the screen the list of moves that are happening in battle. And you'd have seen when Kamel was battling Koga, on the right-hand side, it listed all the moves that were coming up. It's really useful information to have up on screen. We do recommend you turn it on in the HUD in your settings, because it is such a useful thing to know what the enemy's doing, so that when you're queuing your moves, your sort of next set of 3 moves, you can plan and prepare around what your opponent is doing. If they're going to use a really heavy attack move, you might want to prep a potion. If they're maybe buffing their defense, you might want to try and mitigate that or use a special move. So it's really, really handy to have the action order turned on and watch what your opponent is doing. And over time, you'll get used to, looking at it, counting the 3 moves, seeing what they're doing, and then queuing your next 3 moves before they've taken their turn. And that's the kind of flow of Masters. It's queuing 3 moves, trying to buff your team up, and doing damage as quickly as you can. That's the core for battling. And to be honest, it doesn't get much more intricate than that, other than the different team combinations that you can build. If you can get to a stage where you're queuing 3 moves and you're dealing good damage and you're building teams that have a clear tank, a good healer, someone who can do damage, and someone who can buff or debuff, you've got everything covered, and you should clear a lot of the early content very, very easily. There are no questions in the chat at the moment around any of that so far, so I'm going to move on to events and talk about the different events in the game. So this screen here kind of shows you all the different things that are in the game. And the first thing to point out, if you go back one screen, Kamal, is to talk about Battle Villa. So Battle Villa is a once-a-month event that normally lasts for about 2 weeks, which is why it's currently unavailable. So this month, the Battle Villa opens on the 11th of March, and it'll be open for 2 weeks, and then it will close. Battle Villa is a cycled event where you have to take on 30 battles in a row of increasing difficulty. And you can use up to 9 Pokemon every day. And then at the beginning of the next day, you are given an opportunity to basically heal and reset your team and pick a different 9 sync pairs for that day. So you can see on the screen at the moment, here's all the way up to Battle 10 against Sawyer. And on the right, you can see 6 out of 10 Pokemon have been used so far. And what's really different about Battle Villa is your health carries over to the next battle, and your trainer moves carry over to the next battle. So if your Pokemon's fainted, you can't use it again for the rest of the day. If it's taken a lot of damage, it will start the next battle at low health. If you've used a trainer move, unless it refreshes in that battle, you can't then use it again in the next one. So it really is a test of endurance, but you get 2 weeks to do it. You get a reset every single day. And what we say to people is, as soon as the doors open for Battle Villa, every single day you want to try and go as far as you can. Your progress doesn't reset every day. So if you clear the first 5 halls on day 2, you can start at hall 6 and work your way onwards. Getting through all 30 halls in your first attempt is tough. And there are some sync pairs we'll talk about later that we really recommend for Battle Villa, but it is designed to be a tough challenge. And don't feel bad if you don't get all the way first time out, but the rewards from Battle Villa are phenomenal. Lots and lots of cookies for lucky skills, scrolls to unlock lucky skills, lots of gems that you can use to pull characters. It really is worth putting time into Battle Villa as soon as it opens. Battle Villa also has a co-op mode, which opens at the same time that Battle Villa opens. Co-op is a bit of a dead format in the game now. It used to be very, very popular. It's not really around so much anymore. I can see Kamal's just about to pop on the screen. He's looking at EX Plaza. And basically, you got to put the phone back on, Kamal. That's what I was referencing.
See, that's yeah, big brains. Here we go.
You got it. So you can see here a load of EX challenges that are co-op challenges that you can do. But co-op is a bit of a dying thing in this game. It used to be a big part of the game. It's less common now, and we'll talk about why you might need to do the co-op battles a bit later. But one of the things that's really good about the Battle Villa co-op is you can earn more cookies every single day, and because it's co-op, you'll often be paired with people who can take out the enemy Pokemon almost on their own, and they can carry you through battles. So don't be afraid to jump into Battle Villa co-op as soon as you unlock it. You do have to reach, I think, Hall 20 for the first one and Hall 25 to unlock the second co-op battle. But again, as soon as you can, you only get one chance per day to do it, and you should do it every single day because those cookies are very, very valuable. While we're on EX Plaza, I'll just talk a bit about why it's there. So this is the co-op area of the game, and there are some 10, 12 co-op battles that you can do, each with a specific weakness. And what these battles are there for is to drop gear. Gear is one of the more frustrating things in the game. There's gear for every single Pokemon type. So there's fire gear, dragon gear, grass gear, etc. And they just give your Pokemon a little bit more of a stat boost in battle. A lot of long-term players have done what is a very lengthy process to grind all the gear. You can see Kamal's got a whole load of them here. And what you're looking for eventually is to get a set of level 15 2-star gear for every single type. And you can see Kamal's got all of his maxed out. It is a grind. It takes time, but it's worth doing at the point when you feel like you can take it on, but it's not an important pressing thing. What's nice about co-op is there's no stamina restriction. So you can play it all day long. You can either buddy up with friends and do it. You can even take it on your own if you want. You can try and take on the co-op levels on your own without any support. What we do say is that as quickly as you can get to a stage where you can beat co-op on its own, you should use that to grind the gear as quickly as you can because the stat boosts are helpful. But also, it's the only way left in the game to level up your characters without using stamina. It's not fun. It is a little bit of repeat and just putting your phone on auto and letting it happen. But you can actually use EX Plaza to level up your sync pairs without using stamina. So if you are in a bit of a rut or you need a bit of extra experience, check out EX Plaza. You can grind the gear while you're doing it, which is always handy. It takes a long time. And always reach out to a buddy to help co-op and grind with you if you need to. Kamal on screen right now is just showing you how you can auto an EX co-op stage when you have good sync pairs. So I imagine what we'll see here is Charizard doing a lot of damage and Kamal walking away pretty quickly from a battle.
I'm just going to go watch WandaVision or something.
So it's honestly a good thing to do. There's an auto button in the top right. Set it to auto. Walk away from your phone. It will literally take care of the whole battle for you. It will battle for you, and you don't really need to look at it. And what's really nice about it is it means that you can just watch TV, set your phone to auto, level up, grind gear. This is the only part of the game that still remains pretty grindy, but is one of the quickest ways to try and catch up with longer term players who have parties of lots of Pokemon at high levels and also all the gear. So again, don't be afraid when you unlock it to try it. Ask friends who maybe played the game a bit longer to buddy up with you for co-op. There are friend codes. You can always pair up with your friends rather than strangers and use something like Discord to coordinate and just kind of farm these battles in the early stages to get what you need. And as you can see, Kamal is rinsing through the battle very quickly with 2 Charizards and a Blastoise. So that's Red's Charizard and Leon's Charizard. And then using what is very unique to EX battles, co-op battles, which is a team unity attack. Which is if you're getting to the stage where you're playing co-op, whoever you're playing it with will explain it to you. It's basically just an overpowered move that your whole team works together to use. But that's really it. And you can see that Lapras and Victory Bell, they were getting experience. Kamal's got a whole bunch of stuff he's got some gear. He's got stuff to level up his gear. as I say, it is a grind. It takes time, but it does reap rewards once you get to that stage. It's kind of the final. That and theme skills are sort of the very late game cherry on the top things to power up your sync pairs. Cool. So just back in the game, maybe one or two other things to talk about. The next one, in terms of events, is a weekly event called Champion Stadium. One of my personal favorite things in the game, Champion Stadium, you get to take on the Elite Four from one of the regions in the Pokemon games with your own sync pairs. And you can see here that Kamel's challenging the Johto Elite Four, Kanto Elite Four, sorry.
So the normal mode that introduces you into the Champion Stadium is going to be the Kanto Challenge, so that's normal mode. And then the hard mode rotates.
I think it requires level 45.
And the hard mode rotates between Kanto, Johto, and who knows what's coming next. So
yeah. So what's really interesting about Champion Stadium is that you need 15 sync pairs in order to take it on. So you can't use a sync pair in more than one battle. So once you've used it, you can't use it again. So you really have to plan and strategize how you'll set your teams up in order to take out the Elite Four. What's cool is that when you win, you actually get an entry into the Hall of Fame, and Kamel here has got his Johto Hall of Fame, and you can scroll through weeks of teams that Kamel has been using to clear the Elite Four. So every time you beat it, that's pretty cool. You get an entry into the Hall of Fame. There's a little cinematic that plays as well. But Champion Stadium is the definitive kind of hardest content in the game, and very much geared towards people who have got strong teams of various Pokemon, not just sort of 2 or 3, but you do need kind of 15 rounded balanced sync pairs. There are lots of tips and guides available when you get to this stage. Don't worry about it too early on. All that Champion Stadium provides you is a way to increase the potential of your characters, and most importantly, unlock EX for your characters, which you probably won't be doing immediately as you start the game. It takes a bit of while to get the tickets and items you need to EX your pairs anyway. But as soon as you feel like you're ready to start taking on the challenge, come and join us on Friday evenings when we do our weekly Champion Stadium stream. We have tips, we show teams that we use, we talk about what's good and what's not good to use. But this is very much sort of the end game content, the hardest content that there is. If it's not hard enough for you, there is actually a master mode. You can see a toggle at the top that turns the Elite Four into basically nightmare fuel, where you can give the Elite Four basically a whole load of advantages over you, and the more advantages you give them, the more points you get, the more points you get, the more prizes you get. Again, check out the Champion Stadium streams we do Friday evenings for those, because it's a really good walkthrough. There's a lot going on here that I won't talk about in detail, but just have it in the back of your mind that this is sort of the holy grail when you get to start taking on the Champion Stadium.
And I just want to add there, like on top of us, that do it every Friday live on YouTube, where we can help you, give you tips and stuff like that. We've also got Discord that will be in the link of this video. So feel free to join the Discord, ask questions there. I mean, Amit's just always clearing the Johto challenge all the time, using different pairs.
That's what's strange. I just do it for fun sometimes because I like trying bizarre
stress. I don't know how you do it for fun. Stress. But the other thing is there are people on YouTube that do Champion Stadium. There are people on Reddit as well that do Champion Stadium. So if you are looking for teams, look there. But again, our Discord will be in the link of this video, and feel free to join in and ask us for some help, because we're always happy to help. So,
yeah, absolutely. Two other things to talk about. One is Legendary Arena, which Kamel will just pull up in a sec. So Legendary Arena is you against the legendary Pokemon, 3 against 1 in your favor. It doesn't get much better than that. These are limited time events, and they do repeat every now and then. So we've had repeats of quite a few of these already. But they are, again, very, very tough challenges. 3 levels: normal, sort of hard, and very hard. And you get lots of good rewards for taking on the legendary Pokemon. Again, we talk about these on the podcast. We talk about good team compositions and maybe some tips and tricks. So if you are getting stuck, come and check out the podcast on a Sunday evening with us, or come and ask us in Discord. But these are sort of very, very specialist battles where there are really specific tactics that the game is trying to encourage you to use and try and work around in order to win. We recently just finished the Cresselia Legendary Arena, which was lots of fun. Dark type sync pairs getting a chance to shine for a change, and lots of good fun. And then finally, Blissful Bonanza, which is in the events, the green button events there that you can see with the green exclamation mark. Blissful Bonanza is basically a whole load of free items. It happens normally once every 2 months, typically at the end of the month after Battle Villa ends. It gives you a load of gems, loads of cookies, loads of free items. It's very, very cheap. It costs 10 stamina to do, and the battles are all set to level 10. So when Blissful Bonanza is out, always prioritize it. The items are really good. It lasts, I think, sort of 5 to 7 days, depending on how they run it, but well worth doing. All the other events in the game are time limited. So on this screen, you can see we've got 3 open events at the moment and 1 event that's just finished. Check out the events. We'll talk about them. We talk about them on the podcast every week. The events give you rewards, which are always limited time. Some events give you new sync pairs as well, so they're nice to check out if you need a free sync pair. The give and take event that's just ended, that one with Lysander on screen, gave everyone a sync pair of Professor Sycamore and Xerneas, which was really nice. So there are events that give you free sync pairs. Other events give you power-up tickets, items to strengthen your characters. They're always worth spending the time on because they are, as I say, time limited. But until you've got teams strong enough to take on the sort of hard and very hard levels of these events, it's probably worth spending your time just getting your sync pairs leveled up first.
And actually, there are different types of events where you do different things. So I think this is a perfect week to show people. So you got the Giovanni event where you're doing battles. You got story in between as well, and then the battles will give you these tokens. You go to your prize box and you can get different prizes depending on what pool you're in, and use the tokens to pull for items in the pool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like playing the lottery, except you kind of almost always lose.
Not really, but you jest. But yeah, and then you got another event over here with Leon where you do battles every day, and then you got a map instead of a lottery system where you go around the map and you want to get to the next section, or sometimes there's stories that you can get to, or the special items you can receive as well. So that's another type of event you can get. And then actually we've got one more type of event. Oh, go back. Don't want to fight him. Intimidating. Well, you literally just do battles, and then if you do enough battles, you get a story. So 3 very different event types. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add there.
The core concept of most of these events is a unique currency for that event. Sometimes multiple currencies, sometimes one currency. And then you can either in the prize box or on the map or even in the shop sometimes trade those items in for more prizes. And that's kind of what you most of what the sort of events are is story interspersed with battles that you need to sort of grind in order to get enough tokens to buy the good prizes, or in some cases buy the rest of the story from the shop or unlock it, I guess.
Wonderful.
Cool. Right, two things I guess to finish off. The first is some
sorry. Yeah, you talked about getting items, didn't you? So sometimes at the bottom of these, so like you're doing like this Yell and Dream event, for example, you're getting tokens by beating these bosses or these stages. There's this button down here. Oh god, I've just clicked the home screen. What have I done? What have I done? Well, you saw the button there. If you click the button, essentially you'll be taken to the shop where you can exchange for different items. So for example, over here, Yell and Dream items. 500 of these tokens will give me a strike move candy, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, you can get all sorts of cool items for doing these events, so it's well worth doing them. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add to that.
Cool. So finally, 2 things to wrap up. The first is what to prioritize. So there's a very simple graphic. I did rip it off Game Guides, so shout out to them for producing it. Just a little screenshot that shows the sync pairs that you get from the story. This doesn't go all the way through the story. I would argue it's spoiler free, so don't worry. But there's some sync pairs on that list that are really worth highlighting. So the first one that you get nice and early on is Misty, who is a very good special defense tank. Rosa, who is a very, very good support character, boost your team's special attack, very, very bulky, and can give you move gauge refresh, which is really important. A little bit further on, you get Barry. We've talked about how he and Empoleon are a sync nuke. And then the one that everyone wants to get their hands on as quickly as possible is Skylar. So Skylar is one of the best tanks in the game, best healers in the game, and is free from the story. So definitely worth getting Skylar as quickly as you can. A little bit further along the road is Corinna and Lucario, and then finally Hao and Raichu at Chapter 11.
Can I just tell the people, like, for like the majority of Pokemon Masters, like early game, for I don't know, like maybe even 6 months, how Skylar and Rosa were my team, and it just destroyed everything for the longest of times, and they're still very solid now as a team.
Yeah, so well worth picking up those characters as early as you can, particularly while you haven't got a sync, access to the sync grid because you've not either reached a high enough stage in the story or because you've not got enough sync orbs. They're very, very good straight out the box to use. Also very helpful to try and boost their move level. So there are candies you can get in the game that boost their sync level from 1 out of 5 to 3 out of 5, or two out of 5, then 3 out of 5. Getting them to 3 out of 5 is really important because you unlock their sync grid where all of their best abilities are. So Skylar has refreshes on the potion and makes potion heal for more health. How has got more damage on his sync move in particular. Rose has got refreshes on her ability to refresh the move gauge. Lots of good things in their sync grids. And worth, particularly with the 3-star candies that we get from events, using them on the likes of Skylar, Corinna, How. Another good sync pair to highlight is Iris, who you get, I think, at the end of chapter 8. It's very small on my screen. I can't really read it. Chapter 8, but Iris is a very good pair
9, sorry.
once you've got to 3-5,
Mhm.
and Lucky skilled with Lesson Confusion 9, because that basically allows Iris to use a move called Outrage, which is a dragon type move that makes Iris's own Pokemon Haxorus become confused. But what's really cool is that with Lesson Confusion 9 as a lucky skill, basically Confusion hits yourself in the face fewer times. But in Iris's grid are lots of things that multiply the damage the more if you're confused. So Iris is a very, very strong free-to-play character once you've done a little bit of investment. And as a physical striker, she's arguably one of the best dragon-type strikers as well. So here is Iris. You can see Outrage there, leaving the user confused, so leaving Haxorus confused. What you want to do is lucky skill Iris with Lesson Confusion 9, which is actually from a silver cookie, not a gold cookie. And that basically turns Haxorus with the right sync grid into a very, very strong attacker. So just a little shout out to Iris for probably more like the mid game than the early game, but a very, very good unit as well. We do normally recommend trying to get yourself through at least the early parts of the story, probably at least till you get How, and then investing in those characters and getting them up to high levels as quickly as you can. It's worth playing through the story first to unlock those characters, A, because it's fun to have more characters, let's be honest, but also because it gives you a bit more variety in your team. How is a particularly strong sync pair. After him, you get Flint, who is a very good mixed attacker for a fire striker. Lots of good options to look at. Again, if you want recommendations of sync pairs, we can talk about those in more detail in a moment. But that's kind of what we recommend you prioritize. So go through the story till you unlock How, then focus as your primary focus on sync orbs. We talked earlier about how important they are. Spend your 100 stamina a day on sync orbs, then focus on the limited events, then maybe look to the training area to try and level up your sync pairs.
I think that's spot on. That's spot on.
And there are times where there's maybe less going on in the events. Great, because you can get more investment in the training area, level up more of your sync pairs, but the events still reward you with level up items and XP. So don't feel like you need to do the training area to get the level up items. Some events do give you those as well. But really what you want to focus on is getting 1 or 2 teams, maybe maximum 6 sync pairs to level 120, level 125 as quickly as you can, and then using them to start clearing events and the sync orb things on a daily basis. Because that's how you'll kind of move from the very sort of easy beginning to the mid game, where you sort of rocket up through the ranks and get yourself to the late game stage as quickly as possible, where you can take on things like Champion Stadium to get the really, really juicy rewards. The other thing that does exist in this game is skip tickets. So if there are some battles where if you don't want to do them manually, you can use skip tickets. It saves a lot of time. In order to use a skip ticket, you have to clear the battle with none of your Pokemon fainting first. So you'll have to do the stage manually first time around. But after that, a really good thing to do, for example, with the Sync Orb area, is put in 3 Pokemon that you actually want to get experience points and level up, and just use them to grind the Sync Orb area. You get no extra bonuses for using particular pairs in the Sync Orb area. So it's like free experience you get to give your team every single day. So use skip tickets to your advantage. We've talked about EX Plaza as well and how co-op is a good way to level up your sync pairs. especially when you get to the stage where you can do the co-op stages on your own. Cool. Right, that's sort of all the gist of the game. It's how to build a good team, how to battle. I guess the final thing we wanted to wrap up with is, as of right now, March 2021, what we view as great sync pairs. And a little bit of this is subjective, but generally as a community, there's a consensus around who the kind of best pairs are. And I just wanted to talk about each one in a little bit of detail. So I think Kamal's going to pull up each of these as we go through.
No pressure, obviously.
So the first is Skylar, and I'll give Kamal a few seconds to catch up. But we talked about Skylar a few minutes ago about how Skylar and Swanna is a real all-rounder. So a really, really important sync pair to invest in as soon as you get them, because they really do carry you, not just in the early game, but in the very late game, Champion Stadium as well. Skylar is still a staple on my team. What's really useful about Skylar is she's a bulky tank. She can increase your team speed and defense with Take Flight, Potion, and in the sync grid, Potion Refresh is really important to heal your team. And what's also really useful is Gust is just a 1-bar move. So if you ever need to spam moves to get your sync countdown ticking, Gust is there for you as a 1-bar move as well. Really, really important pair. Get used to using Skylar. Look at some of the sync grid recommendations. A lot of people have the tiles that make the potion more effective and refresh it more often. And Take Flight is just a really good staple buff move. +2 speed, +2 defense to your entire team.
And some insane stats. Just look at it. Just all round such a good pair.
It's a very, very bulky Pokemon. Lucky skill, you always want to go for Vigilance. You don't want Skylar taking critical hits, so as early as you can, try and get Vigilance on Skylar. So that's Skylar. Well, next we'll talk about Rosa.
It's good that these are all free as well. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, Rosa's a really interesting one because not only is Rosa free, but you get her 6-star EX for free. The game gives you all the items you need to EX Rosa from the beginner's bingo, which is really cool. So Rosa's sync move when you've EX'd her actually gives you double the buffs after you sync rather than standard. In terms of moves, Time to Energize is the one that you want to hit most often. It basically adds, it basically refreshes your entire move gauge. So every ally Pokemon gets +3 to the move gauge. It only maxes at 6 anyway, so you always max out the move gauge. It means that your striker can use really powerful moves like Blast Burn or Hydro Cannon more often. X Special Attack All does what it says on the tin. It boosts all your Pokemon special attack. And beyond that, really, Rosa is just a very bulky character as well. Again, lucky skill, you want to be looking at Vigilance. That special defense is a particularly helpful one at 306. Lots of HP as well, and a good one early on. The next one to look at is Misty. So Misty is a water type, and Misty is with Starmie. Misty is the sort of default special tank in the game. Has X Special Defense All to boost Misty and your entire team's special defense, and Catch Us If You Can, which boosts Starmie's evasiveness and also gives it healing over time. You can actually use Catch Us If You Can on any of your allies, but typically you want to use it on whoever your tank is so that they can dodge as many moves as possible. Unfortunately, you can't ever dodge sync moves, and sync moves, when the AI use them, hit every Pokemon on your team. So you don't really want to put evasiveness on your striker because it's not going to help them dodge sync moves. What's more important is you buff their defenses so that when they do get hit with a sync move, they take less damage. So that's a sort of grid for Misty. The next one, we've talked about How already, but we'll just pull him up to show you his sync pair in more detail. Just reading a question in the chat. So basically, Discharge is How's signature move. It's an AoE move. It's the bottom left move it has, which means it hits all the enemy Pokemon. And its sync move, Endless Summer Gigavolt Havoc, which is what's on screen now, hits really, really hard. It hits for 300 base damage. With a sync grid, you can actually push that into the tens of thousands of damage. It's really, really strong as a damage dealer. Inertia is the tile in the sync grid that you want to look out for, which basically boosts the power of the sync move the higher Raichu's speed is. And Raichu's trainer move, Feel the Alolan Breeze, boosts Raichu's speed by 3, so using it twice maxes its speed at +6.
Which is why, in one of the earlier teams, I typically would use Feel the Breeze twice and use at least to increase Raichu's special attack, so I don't need to worry about that. So I'd use this instead of this, usually.
Yep. And what's really cool about Raichu is, again, even late game, he's a very, very competent sync pair. So a good one to invest in.
We
Actually,
just
very
used
true.
him in the hardest content of the game with all the buffs given to the opponent, and it took him out in one hit. So
Did.
yeah.
Yeah, very strong sync pair. Very similar in style is Barry and Empoleon. So like How and Raichu have a very, very strong sync move. Again, boosted by inertia, which you see quite often. No hesitation boosts Empoleon's speed. It does need some support for special attack. So pair it with someone like Rosa or maybe Sabrina, if you're lucky enough to get Sabrina, and boost his special attack to maximum.
Now, what's really interesting? Yeah, sorry, go for it.
I was going to say there is something in Empoleon's grid that when he uses his trainer move, he can get +1 special attack every time he uses no hesitation. But ideally, you want to get it to +6 as quickly as you can. So it's a good one to use to get to +2 special attack, and then either Rosa or someone like that can provide the missing 4 that you need. Another very, very good sync pair. Barry likes to revolve around being as fast as possible, much like he is in Pokemon Platinum, and his opponents being as slow as possible. And Bubble Beam both have a small chance to lower the opponent's speed. We've talked about Iris, so I'm going to skip forward to Karina, who is probably the best physical striker for free out of the box. Karina is a fighting type and has Lucario, which can evolve into Mega Lucario. What's really helpful about Lucario is it can boost its own attack with Power Up Punch, boost its own crit with Dire Hit, and use Skate On Through to boost its speed. So it really can sort of be an all-round sync pair by itself and doesn't need to rely too much on other pairs to boost its attack. It does need some defensive support. You will need to raise its defense and special defense, particularly because close combat, which is its strongest damaging move, lowers the defense and special defense of Lucario. Lucky Skill, typically Critical Strike 2 is a really good choice. Boosts Lucario's damage every time he lands a critical hit, which with Dire Hit should eventually become always. Crit goes up to +3, so when you're at +3 crit, you always crit, which is really, really helpful. Look out for Karina and Mega Lucario. They're really, really useful early on and helped clear a lot of the Battle Villa stages for me when I was early in the game. Basically, so with those sync pairs from the story, and we should also give a mention to the main character, the protagonist, whoever you are in the game, who gets access to Pikachu straight out. Pikachu is a very competent sync pair, has the ability to do lots of damage, particularly when you can paralyze the opponent, and also heal your team with Potion. That's Pikachu on screen. You also later in the story unlock the main character with Torchic. Torchic is one of the best early game buffers, actually even later in the game. It's just so quick to give you good buffs. Blazing Hope gives you +2 special attack and +1 crit to all of your team. X Attack All gives +2 attack to all of your team, so you can get your team to +4 special attack, +4 attack, +2 crit just from Torchic alone. It's a relatively bulky Pokemon. It can take a few hits, and is well worth using, as particularly in Champion Stadium, where you have to use quite a large number of Pokemon. It's worth looking at.
When do you think we're going to get an evolution for this bad boy in a grid?
I've wanted Blaziken for so long.
Well, yeah, can't complain it's free, but yeah, when this Torchic came out, it was one of the best free support pairs, so yeah, shout out to Torchic.
Sync. The two ways that you can get sync pairs are from the shop. So if you open the shop, you have two options. One is the general sync scout. The other is a 5-star ticket scout. We'll talk about that one first. So in the shop, you can see the ticket scout, and in the top right corner, you can see that you need how many tickets you have. You can use 30 tickets to get a guaranteed 5-star pair, which at the moment is the only true free way to get a sync pair from the game and guarantee it being a 5-star.
There's another way of doing it, but it's a bit longer.
Not guaranteed 5-star.
Oh,
you're right.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that in a sec. You're right. My bad. But look, you can see the offering rate is 100% for a 5-star character. Lots of these characters are very, very good and worth adding to your collection. So if you're new to the game, probably well worth spending your tickets in here to try and pick up some of the sync pairs you're missing. Lots of the ones that Kamel is scrolling through, I'm like, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm not going to go through all of those sync pairs now. Come and join us on the podcast. Come and join us in Champion Stadium. We'll talk about some of the older sync pairs and which ones are really good there. But just as a general rule of thumb, if you need a 5-star sync pair, getting those tickets and trying to to get those tickets from events is a really good way to get a good sync pair straight out the box.
And probably just to add, at this moment of time, these tickets can only be used here. So don't, worry about spending them. Just go for it.
Yeah, there is probably no point in saving them. We suspect that when more sync pairs are added to the Ticket Scout, they'll create a new type of ticket. Other games do similar things, so just feel free to spend your tickets in there. You're not going to have most of those sync pairs anyway. Now, this is the main way to get sync pairs. The sync pair scouts, 2 options for most banners. The regular scout, which is a single pull for 300 gems, or times 11 for 3,000 gems. The times 11 always works out as more efficient because you get that extra one for free. Buy 10, get one free. You can also use paid gems if you buy gems to do a single pull for 100 gems a day. Not going to go too much into paid gems at this stage. I'm trying to keep this relatively free to play friendly. But Kamal, and I'll just hand over to you to talk about maybe if you are going to spend gems on
Yeah, just usually wait for like anniversaries or maybe like start of the month. Sometimes you get like 300 gems for 99 pence or something like that. So if you're ever feeling a bit cheeky and want to pull for a daily discount, usually wait for like anniversaries, like 18 year, 2 year, or like during the beginning of the month. I think you can get like I think 150 for 99p, so not too bad. If you're enjoying the game, I always say support the developers. So yeah, I think don't go crazy and spend £74 on like 4,000 gems. It's not worth it. But 99 pence, once a month, it's it's less than a coffee,
right? So
yeah.
The game's ad free, so it's a nice way to support the developers. But what I think I will say is that the cheaper bundles tend to be better value for money. Particularly given that the only way to spend gems is on the sync pair scout, and 9 times out of 10 that you're going to get a random pair, not the one you want. It's probably better to be a little more conservative.
I've had my ups and I've had my downs. Don't ever think RNG is going to be in your. Sorry.
I said, boy, you've had your downs.
Yeah. RNG is never going to be kind to you because you spent some money. So don't worry about that.
Now, in the top right corner, you can see something called Scout Points. So this is basically the pity system in the game. So if you spend 36,400 gems on a single banner, and that means the banner while it's there before it leaves, which normally most banners run for either 2 weeks or a month. If you spend 36,400 gems, you can pick any one sync pair you want for free.
Including the promoted one.
Including the promoted one. Now, what you can't do is pick sync pairs that are limited only on the banner that they're not on. So for here, Gloria's banner, if I then move to a different banner, Kamal's just going to tab to the right, and again, in Leon's banner, I can't get Gloria from the Pity Scout because Gloria's banner is unique to her. Now, there's three types of banner in the game. The one we're looking at now is a brand new type of banner and absolutely the best way to spend your gems in the game at the moment, which is a Master Fair Scout. 12% chance of a 5-star, which is the highest we've ever seen in the game. A chance to get Leon and Charizard, who are probably one of the most cost-efficient sync pairs in the game because they just do so many things so well. And Master Sync pairs are a tier of sync pair we've never seen in the game before. So they also have a very special passive skill that applies to your entire team. It actually gives your entire team 10% more damage and reduces damage they take by 20%. So this is very much an unprecedented pair in the game. If you're fortunate enough to get Leon, hang on to him. If you were thinking about maybe starting the game and wanted to re-roll, the re-rolling process is about 30 minutes. Look it up online if you want to. It's not a difficult thing to do. I would highly recommend trying to get yourself at least one copy of Leon. He's a stellar pair for the Battle Villa. He's a stellar pair for almost all content in the game. And is, I think for lots of people who haven't yet got other sync pairs, a really good way to patch lots of holes really quickly. The next type of banner is PokeFair. So PokeFair is the sort of standard limited banner that we see. Here's Marnie and Morpeko. They're only available in this banner. The banner has a 10% chance of 5 stars, so still very, very good odds. But because these sync pairs are not available through anything other than their banners, if you want the sync pair, you've got to pull on the banner. We normally recommend only pulling on Master Fair banners or PokeFair banners because of the boosted 5-star rate. But also because the final type of scout, which Kamal can tab over to next, is the Spotlight Scout. So Spotlight Scouts are the lowest tier of scout, and although they promote a brand new pair, this pair gets added to the pool of all pairs that you can pick up later on. So Piers and Obstagoon are actually available as a pair in Leon's banner because Leon's banner came out more recently, and you can pick him up for free by accident when you're trying to get Leon. So we normally recommend to never try and pull on a Spotlight Scout. If it's your favorite pair and you really want them and you want the boosted chance of getting them, then go for it. But often we recommend never to pull on a Spotlight
It's
banner.
more efficient to wait for a Poke Fair or a Master Fair banner, and then if you really want that pair, you can pity them at the end whilst getting the maximum amount of 5 stars in the game. So 7% compared to 10% and 12% is like a big difference really in the game.
Yeah, so obviously I think our key recommendation for a sync pair today is Leon. If you want to get Leon, spend your gems on his banner by all means. The high 5%, the high chance of getting a 5-star pair is really, really good. If you can't quite get him all the way to pity, it's probably not the end of the world in this case. Ideally, you want to get all the way to pity because you get a free pair for no gems. So it's well worth spending gems on him at this stage on a new account. It's a really, really good banner, just all around. Other banners that are really worth pulling on, other sync pairs that are really notable, probably top of the list are the Kanto trio. So Signa Suit Red, Signa Suit Blue, and Signa Suit Leaf, who come with Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur respectively. We saw them earlier on in the video. They are arguably the strongest 3 pairs in the game used together on a team. Red is by far and away the best striker. There is much debate about whether Red's Charizard is stronger than Leon's Charizard, but as far as Pokemon Masters goes, Red seems to have a very slight edge. There is Blastoise, who is the toughest tank in the game. He takes hits very, very well, has team healing, team gauge acceleration, very, very useful. And Venusaur, who is the best staller and debuffer in the game, who can inflict toxic poison on all the enemies and stall them out with potions and mega healing and things like that. So all very, very good sync pairs. We did see just before Christmas a banner with all 3 of the Kanto trio available. Sometimes they do put them all together in a banner, and I absolutely recommend trying to save some gems for the Kanto trio when they come back. They could well come back around April, definitely probably around the 2-year anniversary mark in August. The Kanto trio are a phenomenal set, and I think if you really want to get to the stages where you're clearing Champion Stadium, you probably want all 3 of them at some point.
Can I just add there, like, look,
Yeah.
if your favorite pair comes around and you don't have more than 10,000 gems, sometimes it might be tough, but just wait because they will come back, and sometimes they'll come back with another, pair Pokefair unit added to their banner, and you can get both of them if you're lucky enough with a higher gem count.
We've never not seen a banner rerun.
No.
And
I mean, recently we had Cynthia and Lance together, Signa Suit Cynthia and Lance together, so that was pretty good value, to pull for that. You can get both of them.
And again, we talk on the podcast quite often about which banners are good value, which sync pairs are good value. So check that out on a Sunday if you want.
Yeah, PokeRamble.com.
PokeRamble.com. And the other thing, I guess, just before is we wrap up, is the other thing this game does is it has Signa Suit, which you've probably heard me say a few times, and seasonal pairs, who are trainers who have donned new outfits, either inspired by their Pokemon or inspired by the season, and are basically an entirely sort of new concept in Pokemon Masters. So seasonal pairs come up every so often. We recently had one for Valentine's. We had some for New Year's and Christmas.
Sorry, did you mean Palantines?
Palantines, yes. We didn't have love, we had friendship.
Yeah.
Palantines, and they are pairs that are, again, their banners do rerun. So last year's, we got over Christmas, this year's Christmas pairs and last year's Christmas pairs. But again, word of caution with them, sometimes they aren't the strongest. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're really, really good. You can see on screen right now what we call Rosanta, which is Rosa in Santa Claus's outfit from Christmas 2019, with Delibird, the quintessential Christmas Pokemon. And they're really cool. They are very, very cool designs. Summer Steven with his rockin' orange shades, who's ready for the beach. They're really cool designs. And again, the banners do rerun, but they typically are, for seasonal pairs, they are Spotlight Scouts, and probably the only time we'd recommend pulling on a Spotlight Scout. Again, check out the podcast. We'll talk more about it there.
Indeed, yeah. I forgot the rates were like really low. Like I've always been quite unlucky with those scouts. But yeah, like for example, you've got Serena up here. I just had to get her because she's such a good pair as well. Like,
yeah, Serena's it's a great fairy type pair. We've not had many good ones in the game, so
no.
it was nice to get a really strong fairy.
And it does that thing you were talking about earlier at the beginning of the video. It does multiple roles. Like, you can combine them with another attacker, like you said, Suit Cynthia, who relies on paralysis. You got Stun Spore here that attacks all targets.
Yeah. Cool. So, gosh, I'm actually drained. That is a whistle stop tour of Pokemon Masters.
He's Giga drained.
Tidbits. I'm Giga drained. Very nice. And as I said, we've got lots more tips, lots more team combinations and stuff. Come and check us out every Friday on twitch.tv/KamailH. That's KUMAILH, where we do live streams of Champion Stadium and Kamail clearing it. And we talk about team compositions and tactics and stuff there. The PokeRamble Podcast every Sunday evening, normally 7:30 p.m. GMT, where we talk about a whole host of other Pokemon things, not just Pokemon Masters, Pokemon Go. Now we're talking about Shining Diamond and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
And then you're going to get
Legend.
the Star Platinum. Sorry, JoJo reference.
Very good. Yeah, it's the podcast that we do every Sunday evening is lots of fun. All of the old episodes are on YouTube. If you want to go check us out, search for PokeRamble Podcast, or on your podcast platform of choice, go check out Spotify or other podcast services. You can find us there as well.
And
dude, this has been gone.
Tonight, 10 o'clock, over on Simply Sassy Vids, twitch.tv/Simply Sassy Vids, we'll be doing our next episode live streaming for the Pokemon Platinum Randomizer Nuzlocke, and our good friend Rahula Hoop will be joining us over there. So
That's
yeah, join us.
Woo. Well, I hope you guys found this useful. I hope that you guys can come back to it if you need to for a bit of a refresher. If you want to ask us questions, Discord links in the comments. Come join our streams on a Friday or a Sunday. We're always happy to take questions in Twitch chat when we stream live or on comments and things like that. Always nice to hear feedback as well.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.